Hey everybody, Hunter back again. We're going to go ahead and start part one on the super detailing of your kit dash. And before we get started on this, there's two other things that I forgot to add in the intro video to this that we're going to be using. And one of them is just a normal pointed toothpick, nothing special. This is not the flat type, this is the pointed type. You can actually use a round toothpick also, where it's a little bit more rounded on the edges. And another item that we're going to be using for this, especially 1/24 scale, 25th scale, or smaller, is this magnifier. This is a lighted magnifier, and it comes in very handy for being able to see certain parts. And I'll actually be zooming in and out while we're doing this tutorial series, and just trying to let everybody know when I'm using that and what part I'm using it on. So we'll be kind of zooming in and out with the camera, and we'll try to get everything, you know, as clean and as clear as we can. And I'll try to hold up what we're doing and kind of let you see how it came out. So what we're going to be doing is I'm going to pan the camera down. I'll show you the dash that we're going to be working with. It's actually a 1/16 scale dash, and it's out of a Peterbilt kit. And the reason why I'm using it is it's basically the same design as that dash that we did over there, that I showed you, that everybody really liked and wanted me to do this tutorial series on. But basically the same thing. The gauges are, you know, about the same depth, and they have good detail in them. But we'll get the camera down here, we'll zoom in on it, and we'll get started on the tutorial. So here we go. Okay, now the first thing I'll do is I'll go ahead and hold this up here, and I'll show you what we're working with as far as the dash. And like I say, this is out of a 1/16 scale Peterbilt kit, monogram kit. And there we go. You can see the writing and the letters and everything and the numbers on the gauges. Very clean detail in there. And we'll also be doing the wood graining that you see there. You can see some roughness, and we'll be doing the wood graining after we do the gauge tutorial. But this is what we're going to be starting with. That's what it looks like. And after this first step here that we do, I won't be able to hold it up because it will still be wet. But when we come back for part two, that'll be the first thing I do, is I'll hold it up and show you how it came out and what it should look like at that point. So the one thing that I always do when I'm doing this type of work is you have to make sure that you got something that sets this level. And another little pointer I'd like to let everybody know about is this dash here is out of a GMC General kit. And you can notice that it's got a lot of angles and stuff on it. So when you set that down on your workbench, you've got an angle here, and then it's flat, and you have another angle here. That's something that you're going to need to break up into parts. So this next part that we're getting ready to do, as far as the black wash, you can only do these two right here in the center first, and then that would have to dry, and then you can prop it up and do the 6 over here on the side. And when they're dry, then you can prop it up this way and do the 6 that are over here. So if you got a dash that's got any type of angles to it or whatever, where it doesn't set level, you're going to have to do it in different stages. But same technique. You just have to, it takes a little bit more time to do it. But we're going to be working with this dash here, which is flat, and I've got it sitting on those 2 tires, which is actually out of the California Hauler kit, and that makes everything level. And I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of our gray and black model wash that we made up. Now, how I did this is it actually has about 4 drops of black in it. It has about 2 drops, I think, of gray in it. It has a drop of dishwashing liquid in it, and the rest of it is water. And the reason for the dishwashing liquid is it helps break the surface tension, and it helps the wash flow a little bit better within the gauges. And when we come back on part 2, I'll show you exactly what I mean by that, how it turns out. And, you know, it's really not that hard. Just you just have to make sure that this flows. That's the main thing. That mixing ratio is not, you know, set in stone. Like I say, it's just whatever works better for you and how it flows within your gauge. But that's a good starting point. So another thing I'd like to make mention of real quick here before we do anything at all is this dash was originally yellow in the kit, and I went ahead and sprayed it white. I like to do the white undercoat first because it allows the numbers and the dials or any of the writing that's within the gauge itself to show up in white. And you can go in and just individually paint each one of your gauges if you want to. I usually either use a white kit piece, or I'll go and spray it in a white primer, and that's what's on this right now is a white primer. And you can actually spray it with a paint also, but just be careful. Don't build up too much paint because you'll hide all the detail of the gauges, and this tutorial will actually be useless at that point. So we're going to go ahead and zoom in on this, and I'll show you what we're doing here as far as getting our materials and everything ready. There we go. We're zoomed in. We're going to have our toothpick, and we're going to have one of our little mixing trays here, and I'm going to try to keep everything within the view of the camera here as best that I can. So we're just going to shake up our mixture that we made, the black wash, and we're just going to put a little bit into our little mixing tray here. And this is very transparent, and that's what you want. You don't want anything real heavy, and you don't need a lot of it. I've got about 4 drops in there right now. And to start out with, pretty simple. Now, as you're working along, you don't actually need to have that sitting down on the workbench. If it's a little bit easier for you just to hold the part and do this, that's what I like to do. So I'll go in and get a little bit of this black wash on my toothpick, and I'll just pick a gauge and go in and start getting that to flow. And you'll have to build it up a little bit to, you got to get a little bit in there to start getting it to flow and get some color going. But as the toothpick soaks up the wash a little bit, it goes a lot faster. And you want to try to make sure that you keep your black wash within the lines of the gauge, within the bezel. Like I say, that's all we're doing right now is just trying to get some of the wash into the gauge. There we go. Now it's starting to take effect. And like I say, this does take time. You want to be patient with this. You don't want to rush it. Because, the more time that you spend with this right now, the better your finished product's going to be. But with this Vallejo, just make sure that you do try to keep it within the gauge and don't get it anywhere else at this point. And you will also notice with this wash that it does tend to collect around the sides a lot more than it does in the center. That just means you need a little bit more wash in there. And as you can see, it took us that long to fill up that first gauge. But like I say, as the toothpick soaks up some of the paint, and it goes a little bit faster. So you just want to fill it up, and you're looking for an even consistency. As far as black wash within the gauge, you want about the same amount in each one. And this is actually one of the things on video that I could go through and fast forward this part and speed it up until we got to the end, but that's not the way I do my videos. I like to do my videos to let people know, when you're doing this kind of stuff, just how long some of this stuff takes. And, there may be different techniques out there for doing this. This is the one that works for me. This is the one I was asked about doing the tutorial on, so that's why we're doing it this way. And, like I say, I use this on my competition models, and it comes out, I have pretty good luck with it, so that's why we're going to do it here on the tutorial and show you exactly, how I go about doing this. And we're just working along now, just doing each gauge. As you can see, they're filling up a lot faster now. The toothpick's not soaking up as much paint. It's actually sitting on the outside of it. And when you touch it down to the gauge, it tends to fill it up pretty quick. Like I say, the main thing is just making sure that you can get a consistent amount in the gauge. And being a black wash, it does take a little bit of time to dry, and we do have another step that we're going to do in here. And sometimes on this next step that we do, it can work very well. Other times you have to end up going back over and doing this procedure again. It just depends on actually the kit part and how long the wash is actually set in the gauge on how much we're actually going to pull out of here. But when I was talking about doing the white undercoat, the reason why is when we do this black wash, it's very thin. And as you fill up and color in the background, that raised detail will show up in white. And that way your numbers will be white, and at the first stages your needle will actually be white also. So just remember, anything that's raised within these bezels will be white. And we've got that red Sharpie to go back in and color the needles, so that's what we're going to be using that for. And like at the beginning of this video, I showed you the magnifier. That's one thing that magnifier comes in very handy for, is going in and coloring the needles in, which is a very precise thing that needs to be done. And another thing you have to remember, and especially if you're going into competition and you want to do something like this, judges tend to get flashlights out and shine them inside your interior. So as much of this as you can do under magnification, the better, because if you do it under magnification and it looks real good, it's going to look even better just with the naked eye. So when the judge shines a flashlight in there to look at it, it comes out very good. He's happy with what he sees. But if you try to do like touching the coloring the needles in with the Sharpie without a magnifier, you're going to be all over the place. You know, even if you have a real steady hand, it just makes it so much easier to use the magnifier to do that. So we're almost done. We've almost got all the gauges filled in now. And like I say, this is a little bit time consuming, but you know, I think the finished product is well worth it. Comes out very nice. And I'm just going back now and kind of dropping a little bit extra in the gauges. And I can see with this one now, we may not have to do that next step that I was talking about. And what that would be is actually tearing off a little piece of paper towel and drawing just a small amount of this wash out of the gauge. But from what I'm seeing, I probably will not do that right now. It seems to be filling in pretty well, and I don't want to take too much out. We'll put a little bit more in these bigger gauges. And like I say, with this being wet, I won't be able to hold it up and show you exactly what it looks like up close. But we will do it on the next part. That'll be the first thing. Just remember to, you know, make sure that you keep all your gauges as even, and you'll notice the color. Once you get one filled up and it looks real good, you will notice, you know, what the texture and the finish of it looks like at that point. You want to try to get the rest of your gauges to match that. And that's the main thing that you're looking for. And there we go. That's basically the first part of the of what we're doing. And like I say, I won't be able to, because I can't turn that. You want to keep that level, but that's what we're looking like right now. And when we come back for part number 2 of the tutorial, I'll show you right off the bat what those look like, how they came out. And for anybody that, you know, may want to know about that next step, I'll show you. If you get a little bit too much black wash where it pulls around the outside of the gauge, you can take a little piece of towel and tear it off, and just take a corner of it and just lightly touch it into the gauge itself and draw a little bit of the excess wash out of that gauge. And I don't know if you can see it change there on the camera or not. You don't want to draw out too much. But you can just come in there and touch it and draw it out a little bit, and it comes out pretty good. So that's one of the steps you can use. Now, like I say, on this one, I don't really think it needs it. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and drop a little bit more back in there just to get it back to where we had it. But, you know, certain gauges, like when I did the Peterbilt dash, the 359 dash, I went ahead and drew a lot of the black wash out of the gauges, and it came out pretty well. In this bigger scale here, it seems to want to hold a little bit more, so we're okay with just leaving it in there. But that's how you draw a little bit of the paint out of the gauge. So that's all we have for now on this one. We're going to let that dry overnight, and then tomorrow we'll go ahead and do part 2, and I'll show you the steps involved in that and what we're going to be using. So hopefully everybody is following along and is going to enjoy the series, and definitely try this out and you know, work along with me and see how you like it at the end. So that's all we have for now. Like always, I thank you for watching and supporting Showtime Studios, and we'll see you tomorrow.